Hello, everyone. Welcome to my episode 3 breakdown for the Falcon and Winter Soldier. This week's episode I thought was just okay. I mean, I thought episode 2 was better for sure, but I didn't dislike by any means. I didn't dislike this week's episode. I just had a couple of questions or like semi issues, which we'll get into when we start talking about this. So if you enjoy this content, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And let's do this. So, after the previously on in Marvel Studios logo flashes, there's an ad for the Global Reparation Council. I'm guessing this is like the people who kind of put everything together back after the blip. It was interesting. I was kind of shocked. I was a little I didn't well, clearly there was going to be like a council or some sort of organization kind of helping put the world back together. And maybe that's what Aunt May was a part of in Far From Home, like with the kind of relocation stuff where Spider-Man had to come out and say hi or whatever. Where Spider-Man had to come out and say hi or whatever. Maybe that's what Aunt May was doing over there. Then we cut to John Walker, and he's still trying to like find leads that basically Sam and Bucky have already found. And he basically finds the house that Carly and them were staying at, which we saw in last episode before they took off. And they're not there anymore. He doesn't get them. But the dude spits on him, and then John Walker's like, "Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" I was just like, this is the reason Cap chose Sam and not you, because that's not really a Captain America quality. So then we cut back to Bucky and Sam, and they're in the kind of like jail facility where Zemo's being stored, which is interesting because it looks like a lot less security than it did at the end of Civil War. I bet they had to be like, okay, well, we can't act like it's that much security because when it was that in Civil War, it'd be impossible for them to break them out. So now it's just like a glass wall that you walk into and you can talk to Zemo or whatever. So Bucky decides that he wants to be the one to go in there. He goes in there, and then my question is answered. Zemo uses the words on Bucky and they do not work. So his time in Wakanda was well spent. Bucky is no longer under the control of Hydra's brainwashing methods. They took all that out of his brain, and now he's just left with the memories, which is kind of haunting, honestly. Like that sounds like there's no worse hell is that you remember everything you've done, but you can no longer not remember it. So then, of course, they break him out. It's pretty simple. They just do a montage, and then Bucky's like, he already did it while he's telling Sam what he was going to do. He's already done it. So Zemo gets out, he meets them at that little garage, and this is the part of the episode that I thought was kind of weird. Sam is okay with it. Like, he becomes okay with it. Which is weird, because I feel like, I don't know, maybe we'd never seen this much of Sam before, and that's like his different, like, it's different than Steve. Because I feel like if Bucky broke someone out of prison for this, Steve would be like, this isn't the way, and I can't believe you did this. But they're okay with it. I mean, this is the morally wrong thing to do, but they're doing it because they think it justifies the means. It's an interesting thing. I wasn't expecting. They just seem Sam seemed to go like he was like no, don't do that. But then he eventually was like, okay, yes, let's do that. And it's weird because he seems kind of eager to become a fugitive again. Like, I felt like he was really worried about, Sarah and them, but now he's like, nah, I'm just gonna go and become a fugitive again. I mean, if I get caught, it's not like an international crime or anything. I don't know. I was like, this is kind of a jump, and maybe that's just a different like Sam is a different character than Steve, so they're doing different things with him, and he's not like he will make the morally gray decision to get out of it rather than just always making the right decision, like right quote unquote for Steve. It was just interesting to see. And then we cut to them getting on the plane, and we find out some more information about Zemo, and it connects him more to the comics. We find out one, he's a Baron, two, he's rich, and he's also a badass, but we already kind of knew that from Civil War. They get on the plane, and they're flying, and Zemo explains, like, I have money and stuff. So Zemo gets a hold of Bucky's notebook that has all the list of all the people he's forgiving. So he reads the name at the top of the list, which is Nakajima, and then Bucky runs over and goes, if you do that again, I'll kill you. After Bucky chokes him, we find out that it's Steve's notebook, so it's the same one from Winter Soldier. When did he get that? I guess he got that, like, I don't know when he would have had time to get that, I guess. maybe just in that between that area between Civil War and Infinity War, Steve might have visited him and be like, "Hey, I've caught up on everything in the world. I no longer need it." Or maybe he gave it to him after. I don't know. But I was just like, when did they have time to give each other the notebook? I just thought it was kind of funny. Then we cut to Carly, and she's at someone's bedside. I don't know if it was her dad or one of her fellow comrades, but she seems to be very upset that he is dying. And then he dies, and I think that leads to her motivation a little later on in the show. Anyway, after Carly gets done dealing with her dad or whoever that is, they go to Madripoor, and then they get into a club, and to get access to talk to the person that they need to talk to, Zemo uses Bucky as like a tool, and he has to act like he's the Winter Soldier. Sam has to act like he's this other alias called the Smiling Tiger, but Bucky has to act like he's the Winter Soldier under Zemo's control, and Bucky just wipes out a bunch of dudes. And this is what I'm saying. Sam is a lot different than Steve, because even though they don't know, like they know that it's a city full of scummy people, but they don't know those people or what they were doing. So I don't think Steve would fly with letting everybody get beat up in the club like that. Like he is letting innocents essentially get beat up. And I know they're not actually innocents, but we don't know those people. So it just looks like Bucky's just taking down civilians. And everybody's recording him. That's going to come back. That has to come back into play later on. Like they make sure you see that somebody has a camera up and is filming Bucky beating the crap out of all these people. I'm just saying it's not a good look. And now that there's like video footage of that, it's not a good look for someone who is pardoned. So after he beats up all those people, they get into the meeting, and this all goes south very quickly. They basically get the information they need about the doctor or whoever's doing this power broker a little bit, and they find out what they need to find out about the super soldier serum, and then Sarah calls Sam on his phone, and it goes to shit because she name drops him. And then they have to like basically fight their way out. And there's this one shot while they're running away, like we see someone shooting and like it's Sharon Carter, that's revealed eventually. But there's this one shot where everybody's chasing them, trying to shoot at them, and Bucky just starts running and Sam's like running behind him. He makes a joke about heels. I don't know why, but when they were running, I was like, this is so badass. I don't know. It was just like one of those superhero moments. I don't know what it was. But for some reason, when they started running away from the bullets, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, this is so cool. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the way it was shot. I don't know if it was the way that they were running. Maybe it was because his metallic arm was like front and center as they were like sprinting through the city. But I was just like, why is this so cool? It has no reason to be this cool. But I was like, wow, that's super dope for no reason at all. I don't know. So, like I said, Sharon shows up. She helps them to find the doc after they go to her nice apartment. Turns out she's been in hiding this entire time. The government hasn't forgiven her like they did the two other Avengers. They go into the city, and they get into the club, and Zemo, they have like a dance montage, and Zemo's hitting it like. So they find the doc using her information or her help or whatever. And Dr. Nagel, I believe it is, says that he made 20 doses. He's perfected the super soldier serum. And I don't know if that means like you no longer get like shredded and ripped like Cap was. Maybe their muscles are just enhanced and like it's not like a whole body transformation. But apparently he's made 20 of them. And they say something like, we've only seen 8. So, interesting. I think maybe that Sam might be one of those recipients. I don't know. Because he has to be, if you think about it, if he is just going to be a human, he has to be able to just compete with these people. Like, I mean, he's not going to be able to compete with a regular human Thor god or whatever. I mean, I know he's got the wings, which is cool, but he's not a superhuman. Bucky is a superhuman. It's just interesting. We'll see what happens with that. Why would they need leftovers? Why would they say that? I mean, maybe it's just for the Flag Smashers, but we'll see what happens. So, of course, as expected, after they get all the information they need out of the doctor, Zemo just straight up pulls a gun and shoots him. And oh my god, it was gory for Disney Plus. I thought I was watching a Netflix show. I was like, oh my gosh, is this Daredevil all of a sudden? Yeah, there's like a single frame of like the doctor and the blood's just everywhere. Maybe the like PG-13 is a little more flexible when it comes to like TV, but I was like, oh my gosh, like they really just showed that. So while they're killing the doctor, everything that happened in the club is catching up with them, and it's basically just a shootout. Zemo comes down and he whips out his moves, man. You see what he was talking about in Civil War when they were like, he's a military strategist. He takes out these dudes all in his mask, and he looks like an absolute badass while doing it. But This leads to my next problem. They take everybody out and they leave with Zemo. Sam just saw Zemo murder a dude. I mean, he was clearly against it. He was like, "What are you doing?" But he still murdered that dude. I don't know, man. They're really playing with what Sam is okay with and what Sam's not okay with. It's interesting. The differences between Sam and Steve Rogers are starting to really show. And I like it, but at the same time, I'm like, is he really the hero? It's kind of making me question, like, he's teaming up with someone who murdered an innocent person in front of him. And while they were doing the shootout stuff, like they're making so many compromises for this mission, and I just don't know if it's morally right. After that, we cut to John Walker, and he's in the prison, and he's kind of figuring out that Sam and Bucky did it. I mean, he won't say that to anybody besides, of course, his partner Starscream or whatever his name was. But he knows. He knows it's Sam and Bucky, and man, there's going to be a conflict there, and I with everything that's going on in the morally gray area with Sam and Bucky, this is going to be an interesting showdown. So after that, we cut back to Sam and Bucky on the plane again. They're flying back, and Sam says, "I'm starting to really regret giving up the shield." And at first I was like, "Oh yeah, well he's trying, he's like finally learning. I should have just taken on the mantle." And then he says, "I should have just destroyed it." And Bucky says, that shield means a lot to people. The world is in a mess. The world needs a new Captain America. Before you ever destroy that shield, I'll take it up and be Cap. Not gonna happen, but I love that they're setting up that inner conflict. The conflict between Bucky and Sam in this show works for me. I know they're doing some morally gray things that I don't quite yet know how to feel about, but I like the internal conflict between them two. I like that it's basically like when one friend leaves the group and then the two people don't really know how to like coexist together. That's kind of the story we're getting, except the stakes are much higher because the mantle of Cap is a much bigger deal than just your friend leaving the room. Then we cut back to Carly, and she blows up a place. She blows up a place with civilians still in it. They needed to do this because otherwise the audience would be like, "Why is she wrong?" So they finally give us a reason to be like, okay, she's just a bad guy. Other than what they were trying to do before, where it was like, okay, she's actually just a good guy. Now she's murdered innocent people. And now I think the jump has been made to she's got the right mindset, but doing it the wrong way. So I'm glad they did that because otherwise the bad guy thing might not have worked as well. Finally, Bucky and Sam get to where they need to be going. They're walking, and Bucky kind of looks to the side and notices. I noticed it immediately. I was like, "That's a weird rock," and then I was like, "Actually, it's one of the Wakandan beads." He says, "Hey guys, I need a second." He goes and he finds one of the Dora Milaje from Black Panther. Great ending because I did not see that coming at all. I mean, they mentioned Wakanda earlier in the episode, but I was shocked to see that they like actually connected it. And that means that there's something else that I think might be brewing here. Okay, so my theories are basically the same as last week. I think John Walker is going to die. I think John Walker is still the one trying to get the serum. And I think it's like you can tell because of how like furious he is about the dude not telling him. I think that he's definitely trying to get the super soldier serum. I don't know if he's the one texting him. That might be Ross. Or texting Carly, that might be Ross, but I know that he for sure wants that serum. At least it feels like he definitely does. Now, the Wakandan situation, the director has said that episode 5 is going to be super sad and like heartwarming. I think there's a possible Chadwick Boseman cameo that we didn't know about. I mean, I'm like 40% on that, but that would be, man, that would be devastating. I mean, like if that's with the connection to Wakanda, if there is like a subtle Chadwick Boseman cameo, it's gonna tear me up, man. It's really gonna tear me up. And if he was in episode 5, which I'm not saying he is, but if he was, I think that would be. You might see me shed a couple of tears, to be honest. Yeah, but like I said, I mean that's kind of far fetched. I mean it shot last year in 2019. It shot 2 years ago in 2019. So he would have still been around, but I don't know. I think we would have heard about it by now if someone as big as T'Challa was just going to show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So that is going to do it for my episode 3 breakdown of Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and subscribe. It really, really helps me out. I've currently got a weekly series going called Movie News Monday, where we catch you up to date on all the movie news from the past week in a concise amount of time. If you enjoyed this, like I said, please leave a like and subscribe. It really, really helps me out. And I'll see you back next week for some more Falcon and Winter Soldier.